Hello, I thought I'd make another video about my recently purchased Korg Volka Keys analog synthesizer, as I've had time to muck around with it more and learn a little bit more about what it does. I mean, frustrating, it doesn't actually do what I bought it to do, because I've got a collection of over 4,000 pieces of music in MIDI form, and this has got a MIDI interface, and so I thought, oh well, I could just hook it up to the PC or a sequencer and stick through these MIDI tunes. And the trouble is, they're all written for modern synthesizers with multiple channels and voices, and this has only got 3 oscillators. But even with the 3 oscillators, it still produces a fascinatingly complex and interesting sound. So I thought I'd do a video that nobody else on YouTube seems to have done yet, one where you simply take the built-in demo sequence and noodle around with it for a few minutes. And there's some fascinating things you can do with this because of the way it treats these 3 oscillators. The default mode, and you've only got a keyboard that big, which is not huge, it's about 2 and a bit octaves, but you've got an octave mode switch to the left, which is the equivalent of having a pitch slider, but instead of having a pitch slider you can click between, so you can go all the way down to 32, so you get really bassy notes like this. And I've got an oscilloscope app right in front of me, which is a little hard to show you, but I'll move the camera shortly so you can see some of these things. You can then push that up to 16 and get this. These are all triangular shaped waveforms. Then you can push it up to 8 and get this. And it's already starting to sound like something out of 60s Doctor Who. This is 4, which I tend to use as the default. Then you start getting quite high pitch with 2. And finally 1. And the highest note it can play is this. Yes, those were dogs in the distance. So yeah, the default demo sequence is this. But I can noodle around with this while it's... I'll turn it off. I can noodle around with that while it's playing, because you've got these various controls on those 3 oscillators. The one that I've been able to get my head round the easiest is on the right here, and it's the envelope generator. So whilst that is playing, you can change the attack, the decay, and the sustain of every single note in that tune. So you get this. I'll start turning up the attack. Now I'm already at maximum decay, so if I turn that down, and I'm at midpoint on sustain, so I can increase that, I can decrease that, which is a little too subtle to hear. Also, at the same time, I can change all the settings on the sequencer. So I'm at mid-tempo at the moment, minimum tempo is that, back up to mid, maximum tempo is this, at which point it's so fast, particularly with the attack, you can't really hear it. It's a little insane. It's a little insane, that. Oh, and by the way, the delay features on this are gorgeous. So here's a note. Or an alternating waveform, to be more precise. Currently I've got it set on sort of mid-feedback. I can maximise the feedback. And you get that nice sort of echo effect. But I can also maximise the time of the feedback. So you get notes echoing around each other. What gets crazy is it's still obeying you while you decrease the time of the feedback, so you get that in the background. So the oscillators operate in various different ways, and at this point I actually need to consult the manual because it's quite complicated to explain. We've got a control here on the left which alternates the way the oscillators interact with each other. So this is your, what I call the default mode, which is poly. This is up to three chords when you're in sawtooth mode. Let me put it in sawtooth mode. So that's sawtooth mode. You're playing up to three chords of the sawtooth. Then you've got unison mode. The sawtooth wave is produced at the same pitch by three voltage controlled oscillators. Then you've got octave mode. The sawtooth wave is produced at the fundamental tone by two voltage controlled oscillators and a pitch one octave higher by the third. So you get this. And if I start mucking around with things like detune function, you'll get this. So yeah, that's octave mode. Fifth mode. The sawtooth wave is produced at the fundamental tone by two voltage controlled oscillators and a pitch a fifth higher by the third. This is quite nice to hear. It's like having a chord on a single note. As you can tell, I'm just sort of discovering stuff about it as I use it. It's that complicated. So that's octave mode. Oh, sorry, no, that wasn't even fifth mode. This is fifth mode. Isn't that gorgeous? Then you move on to a couple of other functions. This thing has also got its own built-in ring modulator. You can't really adjust the ring modulator, but it has got one built in. You get a mode called unison ring. The three voltage controlled oscillators are used to produce a sound with ring modulation applied to the square wave. And then finally you've got polyphonic ring. This is described by the manual as up to three chords are played with ring modulation applied to the square wave. So you can slow down the rate of the low frequency oscillator and you get this. If you speed it up, you get this. If you start detuning it, you get this. So yeah, that's polyphonic ring, and all of those modes affect the way the built-in demo tune is played, and I'll try to get it back to how I had it at default, which I don't at the moment. As you can hear, it's quite a complex thing to adjust. So let's go through them whilst the demo tune is playing. First poly, then unison, next we've got octave, then you can do fifth. It's practically falling over itself now. Next you've got unison ring, and finally poly ring. Now you've got notes echoing over notes. So that's currently in saw wave mode. You've also got triangular wave, and when I was experimenting before I started shooting this video, you've got square wave. So we'll use square wave. You get some particularly weird effects with a square wave. So if we go back down to poly, yeah, I'm adjusting the cutoff on one of the oscillators here, so you get this kind of muffled sound. And that's just in poly mode. Whoa. Then we go up to fifth mode, and we start hitting full-on John Pertwee music now.
「
Then we go back up to unison ring. Things are starting to get really distorted. And then finally we'll try it in poly ring. So you've got a purer sound now. And you're still getting some sound even when I turn the cutoff right down. It does start to sound very, very weird. So yeah, it's a remarkable piece of kit. I'll actually have to do another video where I hook it up to various filters that I have. I've got a 1960s style ring modulator over there, which takes a bit of doing to set up, but I can feed the whole thing through to an external ring modulator and output that to the amplifier. Also over here I've got a modern digital filter guitar pedal, and with that you can apply delay, you can do pitch control, all sorts of weird and wonderful things, but it's amazing. It is really amazing. I think what I'm going to do to finish this video is I'll turn up the amplifier that you're hearing all this on, and then that way I'll finish it by changing the time whilst it's playing back, because it sounds very strange indeed. See, we're currently only at about a mid setting on this amp, so if we go up a bit higher, so this will have a bit of a punch. So let's do this. Hours and hours of fun with the Volka Keys. Goodbye.